Well, a very good afternoon. It's just gone 21 minutes past the hour. You're watching the first hour of News Today here on the SABC News channel with myself, Alicia Jali. Let us now take a look at our leading story today. MPs from two parliamentary committees are questioning whether the NPA is guilty of selective prosecution. And Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Police and Justice grilled NPA head Shaun Abrahams about the pace at which state capture investigations are being conducted. And at the heart of the matter, the Gupta family involvement in the state and the allegations of tip-offs leading to Ajay Gupta being declared a fugitive from justice. Last week, acting Hawks boss Yolisa Matakata told Parliament that her team was ready with a docket in November, but that the go-ahead for arrest was only given in February, which was too late. Abrahams has denied that the NPA had delayed state capture investigations, and not having a strong enough case or manpower at the time are just some of the reasons that Abrahams gave for not arresting immediately. He continued to defend the matter in which the investigation is being conducted. The committees have concluded to further meetings on this matter, and it will be calling on the former and the current police ministers as well as the Justice Minister. All right, well, yesterday's raids at the Gupta residences out in India were not just limited to their hometown of Saharanpur. Simultaneous raids also took place at Gupta offices and their homes in New Delhi and Dehradun. Income tax officials are still not divulging the reason for the raid, but we can confirm that officials have seized several documents, computers, as well as hard drives. And local reports from Saharanpur allege that the officials are trying to identify a possible link between the probe against the Guptas in South Africa and the investments that they have made in Saharanpur over the last 3 to 4 years now. Our Indian correspondent Neha Poonia has all the latest details. She joins us from New Delhi. A very good afternoon to you, Neha. Do tell us about what led to the raid in earnest.
Alicia, like you said, we don't know the reason yet, but there is quite a bit of speculation considering the timing of this particular raid. I'm also picking up that it wasn't just income tax officials and a police team that conducted that search at the Gupta home in Saharanpur and other properties belonging to the brothers in India. There was also a team of Enforcement Directorate officials. Now, this is important because the Enforcement Directorate is one of India's top agencies that investigates financial crimes and money laundering cases. So speculation is that there's some sort of link that's now being that the officials are trying to establish between the money that the Guptas might have invested in Saharanpur, and they're trying to see whether or not this links up with the probe that's going on against the brothers in South Africa for state capture charges.
I mean, then, so what's the latest now that side since the raid? Any arrest warrants, and in particularly in India, because we're getting very different stories about the warrant of arrests this side.
No arrest warrants have been issued, but what I can tell you is that several people were quizzed yesterday, and I'm also being told that some statements were recorded as well. Now, the relatives, the close associates and neighbors of the Gupta brothers in Saharanpur were spoken to by these officials. We can't say whether an arrest warrant was issued because, like you said, the officials have not divulged the exact details behind the reason for the raid, and that's usually how these raids go, Alicia. As far as income tax and ED officials are concerned, they don't immediately speak of the reason for conducting raids because that might compromise the case, but the investigation into this matter is certainly still ongoing.
Look, Neha, does anyone that side, for that matter, actually know the whereabouts of the Guptas?
Alicia, in fact, we visited Saharanpur only last week where we had gone to the ancestral home of the Guptas. We had spoken to their family, friends, to their relatives, to their neighbors, and all of them had told us that it's common knowledge in Saharanpur that the Guptas are slowly but steadily moving their empire to Dubai. So the speculation, at least in their hometown, is that they are possibly in Dubai right now.
All right. Now, Neha, look, I understand that we might have very different laws that govern our respective states, but maybe take us through the process that would then be likely to unfold should there be a real cause for an investigation or even an arrest of the brothers, as you've mentioned, of course, that the Enforcement Directorate has been seen. Is India then able to prosecute the brothers based on crimes that they committed in another country?
Yes, Alicia, they can, because if there's any kind of link that's established, if the agencies are able to prove that the Gupta brothers brought illicit money into the country and then invested it here, the Enforcement Directorate will be able to investigate and then prosecute, depending on the evidence, the Gupta brothers. So that's essentially what the nature of the investigation right now is. The Enforcement Directorate and the Income Tax are trying to establish and find out the source of the money that the brothers have brought into the country. If they can prove that this was illicit money, this was money that was used for which was earned from illegal activities in South Africa, a probe against them and possibly an arrest is possible according to Indian laws.
All right, so this essentially means, Neha, that the Indian government is now at a stage where they are literally conducting investigations, looking into this matter. So it's a serious matter right now.
That certainly appears to be the case, and this is something that I've been regularly following up with the Indian government. I've been asking them almost every other day whether or not they've heard anything from the South African government, and what I've been told so far is that the minute the Cyril Ramaphosa government contacts the Indian government and tells them that we need assistance in locating the whereabouts of the Gupta brothers, the Indian government will start helping them and will do the needful. It's also important to note that South Africa and India do have an extradition treaty.
Yeah.
And I know in your country currently there is speculation about the nationality of the Gupta brothers.
Absolutely,
to that regard, we know that Ajay Gupta holds an Indian passport.
That was actually my next question, Neha, because I wanted clarity from you, that side, on whether or not the brothers or their family members, in your knowledge, actually do have citizenship, legal citizenship in this country.
As far as Indian laws are concerned, Alicia, no Indian citizen can hold on to dual citizenship, which is why we're picking up that out of all the Gupta family members, Ajay Gupta is the only one who's not renounced his Indian passport, which is why he continues, in a sense, to then be governed by Indian laws. The other members of his family have, according to the records that we've seen, given up their Indian citizenship, and they will then not fall into that purview. But Ajay Gupta, the head of the family, in that sense, from what we're picking up, does have Indian citizenship.
Look, Neha, before I let you go, I mean, what else have you picked up around the case, especially since the raids? I mean, what are people talking about, and particularly the media in India? Has it finally picked up on this story?
Not to the extent that it is being covered in South Africa. As far as India is concerned, the story has gained very little attention over the last 2 years. It was only when Jacob Zuma stepped down that the Indian media started covering it to some extent. That's when they started speaking of the Gupta brothers and their close ties to Zuma as well. And in Saharanpur, there is far more coverage of this story than in other parts of the country, and that's only because the Guptas hail from there.
Neha, thank you so much for that update. We'll definitely keep in touch with you. That is our Indian correspondent, Neha Poonia. And of course, she is joining us from New Delhi in India with an update on the Gupta brothers. And as we've just heard from her there, in terms of the citizenship, we heard that the Gupta brothers might have dual citizenship. But she says, according to Indian law, no citizen of India can actually have dual citizenship. And one of the Gupta brothers has not given up his passport, meaning that he was taking over another country's, particularly South Africa's, citizenship. Let's take a quick ad break. We're back with more news. Stay tuned.